Hi guys, it's good to be back again. I'm just continuing on this theme of being poor with Jesus, which is really a big topic. I'm sort of trying to condense it, of course. It's really trusting in God's providence, as I was saying last time, having absolute dependence on God and for everything in life, really. That it's really the truth that we are dependent upon God, but most people don't really realize that everything we have is gift. So it's having that sort of attitude that everything is gift from God, which it really is. It's just facing the reality. And that's why Jesus says in Luke 12, I'm telling you not to worry about your life and what you are to eat, nor about your body and how you are to clothe it. For life means more than food and body more than clothing. Think of the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap. They have no storehouses nor barns. Yet God feeds them. And how much more are you worth than the birds? Can any of you, for all his worrying, add a single cubit to his span of life? If the smallest things, therefore, are outside your control, why worry about the rest? Think of the flowers. They never have to spin or weave, yet I assure you, not even Solomon in all his regalia was robed like one of these. Now, if that's how God clothes the grass in the field, which is there today and thrown into the furnace tomorrow, how much more will he look after you, you men of little faith? But you must not set your hearts on things to eat and things to drink, nor must you worry. So we're not to worry. He says it's the pagans who set their hearts on these things. Set your hearts on his kingdom and his righteousness, and everything else will be given to you. So that's the Lord's promise to us, that when we set our hearts on him, we can trust that he'll provide. So we don't be anxious, really, about food or clothing or shelter, or basic necessities. They'll be given to us by our loving Father, right? This building that we're in at the moment, one part of it, we're actually in an extension right at the moment, but the first part of the building on the other side, we bought some years ago from some sisters who pulled out from this place. And when we needed to buy, because we had too many people in our previous house, and we needed to expand, we had no money, nothing in the bank really at all. And so sisters gave us a good price, but it was still, close to $300,000, which is not much in Australian language for a big house like this. But we didn't have anything. And so I said to the sisters, this was towards the beginning of the year, I said, look, by the end of the year, we'll be able to give you the whole amount. Just trusting in the Lord. And I said, on the feast of the Immaculate Conception, and we'll be able to do that the 8th of December. We'll have it all there for you. Big trust in the Lord. But actually, that's what happened. We just let people know that there was a need, and it came in quite an extraordinary sort of way that really was so much the Lord's provision, so much the Lord just fulfilling his promise that he would care for us when the need was there, because this was a need. So it was getting close to the finishing time, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, how's this going to happen? Because we were still a long way short. But then all of a sudden there was a knock on the door one day, and there were two old ladies there, and they wanted to speak to me, and one of the brothers came in to tell me, and I said, oh, look, I'm busy. Just help them as best you can. No, they want to speak to you. So I came out, and they said, oh, Father, we heard you had a building appeal. We thought this might help. And I looked at, oh my goodness. It was half the money that we needed at that point in time. And I was just blown away. They said, oh, we just had this sort of inheritance and we wanted to help, that sort of thing. And then we still had some left over. And I thought, oh, what's going to happen? We'll have to tell the sisters we won't be able to pay everything for them, because we promised we'd be able to pay the whole lot. And then the next week, another knock on the door, and I answered the door. And it was the wife of a leading politician here in Australia, who we'd sort of become friends with just because they were Catholics and all that sort of thing. And she said, "Oh, how's your building appeal going?" I said, "Oh, we're getting there. She said, "Oh, this might help." And she said, "I've run, I'm in a hurry." She raced off, and I looked at, oh my goodness, it was the rest of the money. So the Lord had provided, by his graciousness for what we needed. But it's very important that at the same time, while we do have houses and we do have cars and things like that we try to provide a true communal witness, because our poverty is meant to be, in the sense of witness, so each one, we own nothing personally, but we do share in common. So, but we want to actually only take what we really need and then pass on what we don't need, right? So people give us a television, well, we don't need a television, so we pass it on, right? That type of thing. We don't want to have anything more than what we really need. And there's a distinction between like false needs and real needs. So we want to sort of have it such that the way of life really is simple, avoiding all luxuries, and it's practical, that we make these practical decisions about the house, like the sort of car that we have, the food we have, the appliances we have, the entertainment, the travel, the recreation. The exception we make for that is equipment for ministry, because we can't do well enough to have equipment for ministry and proclaiming the gospel. That's why we have a studio here for our media presentations, because we want to have the best for the proclamation of the gospel. But for our own personal living, we want to live very simply, not having anything more than what we really need to have, right? No sort of luxury items around, that type of thing. That's our attempt to sort of live the way of Jesus, right? And no brother has his own personal income or personal bank account or credit card, Those in full-time ministry, they'll have a credit card, but it's actually connected to the MGL account. And so they're accountable for everything that they spend, right? Because that's seen by those that monitor those accounts, right? So we're trying to live a communal way of life, trusting in the Lord's providence. He will provide for the missionaries to go outside, and then we just use what we need to use for the sake of our own way of life or for the sake of the mission. And that means too, because everything is given to us, we have to be responsible stewards, caring for what's been given to us. We have this common ownership, and sometimes that can be like an invitation to irresponsibility, where people, I don't have to worry about that because that belongs to the missionaries of God's love. No, we have to be grateful for what's been given to us and look after it carefully with great responsibility, That's very important. That brothers grow in that responsibility of caring for what's been given to us, because it's God's, really. He's given to us. And so we're, flying in the face of God if we don't look after it well, And also our poverty means that we are in solidarity with the poor. So we have a special preference, as it is, for the poor, making friends with the poor and being one with the poor. So it's good for us to have the poor around our table. Like at Christmas time, for example, we had an extra 15 or so people who weren't necessarily able to find somewhere to have Christmas. And so that's a way of just trying to express who we are, that we are friends of the poor. And we have a care for the socioeconomic needs of the poor. This is especially expressed in our missions in Indonesia and in the Philippines. Especially recently during the COVID time, we've been able to raise lots and lots of money to be able to sort of help feed people in both of those missions in a most dramatic way, actually. Thousands of people have been sort of supported through our works there. But our work with the poor is not primarily sort of a humanitarian work. It's really being friends with the poor, and the most important thing we can bring to the poor is Jesus himself. And the poor are really open to the the proclamation of the gospel. They're very open to hearing the message of the good news. And so we find that we simply want to be friends with those who are most in need, those that are abandoned, those that are lost, those who are rejected. And so here, say in Canberra, for example, we go down to the local caravan park where people who just live in the caravan, don't have enough money for a house, that sort of thing, and spend time with them and bring hope to their lives, right? So we're close to the broken, the lost, the abandoned, the isolated, the rejected. It's like when Jesus went to a dinner, and in that dinner, he says to his host, "When you give a lunch or a dinner, do not ask your friends, your brothers, your relations, or your rich neighbors, for fear they'll repay you for your courtesy by inviting you in return. No, when you have a party, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind. That they cannot pay you back means that you are fortunate, because repayment will be made to you when the virtuous rise again." So we love it when, say, we have a celebration meal on Saturday night. We have people come who really are very needy people. We also have all sorts of people come, to open our house and our table to those who are in need is something that we want to be able to do. And, of course, to work with the poor and the lost, those that are, in the Philippines, for example, I just love to go through the squatter settlements there, where we have a lot of work going on, and we help them sort of rebuild their little houses or that sort of thing. But it's just good to just connect with people and sort of, and they just love to connect with the priest too. I remember the first time I went into the squatter settlements there, this woman came up to me and she said, "I want to thank you." I said, what do you mean? She said, "I want to thank you for your brothers," meaning our brother priests. And I said, "Oh, why is that?" She said, "Because this is the first time a priest has walked down our street, which is not really a street, it's just sort of like an alleyway through a squatter settlement." But so it's that type of thing where we're trying to sort of stay close to the poor and work with the poor as part of the heart of Jesus. Okay, and our poverty too, it does free us for mission, because Jesus sent out his disciples. He said to them, "Provide yourselves with no gold or silver, not even with a few coppers for your purses, no haversack for the journey, or spare tunic, or footwear, or staff." He said, don't go with nothing really. And so we do try. Poverty frees us to be more a missionary, right? So we don't have to sort of have 1,000 suitcases when we're traveling somewhere, Just take a few things with us and go to the next place, the next mission, you see. So we're not accumulating a lot of things, as it were, that stops us from being mobile. So we want to be truly missionary in that regard. So it frees us up to preach the gospel without encumbrances, as it were, So you can move at the moment's notice. When I want to sort of say to your brother, "Well, I think it's time for you to move from here to there," he doesn't sort of say, "Well, first of all, I have to sell my house, and then I have to sort of look after my kids, and then I have to sort of..." No, he just, because he's celibate and because he's living a life of poverty, he can just say, "Okay, I'll just pack my bag and go," It's as simple as that. So it's freeing up to be able to be available for the preaching of the good news wherever we're to be sent. And we do, people say, "Well, how do you get your money then?" Well, of course, it comes from others, from donations. We get lots of donations. We also do, say if our priests are doing a particular work somewhere, they may receive a stipend for that work. So if it's in a parish or something like that, they might receive a stipend. But that stipend goes straight to the missionaries of God's love, right? Doesn't go to the individual. But a lot of our priests are not receiving stipends of that kind on a regular basis. But we do receive love offerings from people. Like I might go and give a talk somewhere and they might give me some money as a love offering, That type of thing is a way in which some income comes in. It sort of comes in all sorts of different ways. It just sort of comes from and we see it all as the provision of the Lord. We never set a price on our services, We try to, the workman deserves his keep, says Jesus, but also we don't want to sort of in any way become mercenary at all. Let that come from generosity of people's hearts. And if people choose not to give, then we don't worry about that. We're still happy to have served, That's really whatever the Lord would provide for us through the generosity of people in their hearts. And we've found that it always happens that, there's enough given to us to be able to sort of do the work that continue with the work that we're, being asked to do. So being poor with Jesus. Being poor with Jesus is a wonderful way to live. It's an exciting way to live. It's a free way to live, right? But what you find is that I found it's one thing to give everything away to the poor, which I've done, and to possess nothing. But then I have to deal with my heart still, because my heart can still be greedy, as it were, or my heart can be wanting this or wanting that, you see. And so it's a work of the heart more than anything else, that deeper detachment of heart, that dependency upon the Lord, that, just free of all anxieties in regard to money and regard to possessions, regard to buildings, regard to cars or anything like that. We just sort of trusting the Lord that really he will provide. And I found sometimes that trust can be, tested a lot too, in one way or another. When the bank account can go right down and you think, oh, what's going to happen? And then some new provision comes by surprise, So it's sort of like that type of journey, waiting upon the Lord all the time for his provision and not being too worried or anxious about it at all. There's always a natural sort of disturbance in the soul sometimes when you feel it's not coming, or how we're going to be provided for, etc. That does happen sometimes, but by God's grace, he does work on our hearts and gives us a real trust in him, and also naturally provides for us in so many ways. So bless his name.